Live from the Shooting from the Lip studio in Louisville, Kentucky, it's the KT Unearthly Show with your hosts, Kevin Hale and Tiffany Mack.
What is up? Kevin Hale in the Shooting from the Lip studio on this Friday night. It's September 16th, 2016. It's the KT Unearthly Show with my partner in crime, the one and only Tiffany Mack. T-Mac, what is up with you as your mic goes on?
I'm just, as you turn my mic on, thank you. Yeah. I've had a great week. I've had a few interesting comments from Facebook lately that were irritating me, but I guess I'm learning to have a bit of a thicker skin. So that's always interesting. The growing pains of put yourself out there, I guess.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about that, but we're gonna save that at the right before we shut it down tonight, because I think it's only fair that we kind of throw it out there what our show is about, how we're trying to do things here, and either people are on our wagon or they're not, and we're not gonna change who we are. But I think at the same time too, we've since the first show, or April 15th till now, which is in a sense our 5-month anniversary show, if you will, we've done okay.
Happy anniversary.
You too, pumpkin. Here we are again, KT Unearthly. You can subscribe to our show on iTunes and YouTube, Twitter at The Shooting Lip, at Tiffany Mac _ET, at Kevin Hale 423. You can like us, follow us on Facebook and Instagram, Shooting from the Lip, and the KT Unearthly Show. Also, we're on the SoundCloud and Stitcher apps, Shooting from the Lip. So check us out on all of those social mediums, all of our shows, not just the Friday night show, but our Monday and Wednesday shows are all on those mediums. Tonight, another, which I think is going to be a solid, fun guest, and he's a Louisvillian too. So that we got 3 Louisvillians here. I mean, it's like we could have just met up at the McDonald's Wi-Fi and done the show, or not. Like, no, well, let's go Starbucks. We'll do Starbucks. We could have done it.
I don't
locally.
like Starbucks. Let's do it at Panera.
Or whatever you want. We could have met up, a couple laptops, and but Lee Pennington is going to join us tonight. I look forward to that. We're going to talk Bosnian pyramids, leading us into several discussions of pyramids, all the pyramids in general, and just have some good conversation with Lee. Before we bring on our guest, we always do our little tongue-in-cheek. It's the TK foreplay, which I throw a little tidbit at you. Paranormal, maybe nature, but this one, it's got a paranormal theme, if you will, but it's, it is Hollywood. There was a movie that came out today. It's kind of like the sequel to the movie that was released in 1999. Do you know what that movie is, Tiff?
Gosh, I don't know.
It's a yes or no question.
I can't.
I know.
No. Okay. What is it?
All right. Well, this movie in 1990.
Is it a cartoon? Is it a Disney movie?
No, it's not. No, it's not Disney. It's not Disney. Actually, when I first saw this movie back in the day, I watched it. I remember this. I watched it. It was sometime after midnight. I was married at the time. My mother-in-law was staying with us, and we were wide awake sometime after midnight. We decided to watch this movie. I'd gotten, at that time, I think it was a VHS copy.
Oh, my God. And I know what it is. Can I say it?
Hold on.
Can I guess?
Let me set. Hold on. It's like a kid at Christmas time. So what's so fascinating about this movie, it filmed in a documentary type, setting, and the budget was $60,000. All these unknown actors, actresses. Actually, no, I think it was just actress, and there was 2 actors. It was very simple. The box office total box office draw, almost $250 million. So do the math. $60,000 budget, 250. Yeah, they kind of came out ahead. I thought it was a great movie. It was a first of its kind, really, back in the day. And then they just released what they kind of truly called a sequel, though I think there was one other kind of version released, I don't know, early 2000 or sometime, I don't know, in the 2000s. All right, without drum roll, if I can insert one here, but name the movie, Tiffany.
Oh, geez. I don't know. I was thinking.
I thought you just knew it. No.
Is that what it
Blair
was?
Witch Project. Blair Witch Project.
Oh, I was going to say that because I was like, The Ring came out in like 2002.
Yeah,
but I didn't know that they were making a new one. I'm sorry. I didn't think it was that good to make a second one.
Well, wait, really? You didn't like the first one?
No, it was a little weird. It sort of freaked me out. But yeah, I can see the $60,000 budget.
So wait a minute, you're saying it because it freaked you out, you didn't think they would make... Wait a minute, a movie is not contingent on you, Tiffany. So if you're freaked out, actually, technically, isn't that a good thing?
I guess, yeah. They did what they wanted.
Yeah,
but there was like a big following with that too, and I just didn't.
Huge.
I mean, it freaked me out a little bit, and I didn't think about it the next day. I mean, it wasn't that spectacular to me. It did freak me out a little bit, but I was just like, this is ridiculous. But it was the technique that they used was very, very new, and it was they were taking a big chance. But it was a score for him, obviously. 250? Holy moly!
Almost $250 million on a $60,000 budget. So So
pretty good investment.
Obviously good return on investment there. The movie came out today with a budget of more, $5 million, which is still cheap by Hollywood standards. The reviews have been mixed, but I haven't seen. I've seen the previews, the trailers. Obviously, with technology and from 1999 to 2016, the effects that will be added to this version will probably be over the top and will make you jump and all this stuff.
You mean just clarity? Like the thing will be clear?
Yeah. I will want to watch it. I won't go to I don't do movies. I'll wait till it becomes available either on demand or DVD or whatever, and I'll Netflix, whatever.
So what was your big draw? What did you like about the movie? What was so spectacular about
the unknown?
That you would go and
to me,
it?
the unknown is always scarier than the known. What you don't see, what you think. I thought the movie, I thought the storyline was pretty solid. The acting, for 60,000, it wasn't bad. I fell for the whole concept of it because when it first came out, there was this thing. Is this real? Is this a true story?
Right.
How they kind of, so that was the lure too.
Because it was the idea of a found footage. It was found in the woods.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
But
come to my house on a Saturday night. Leave a camera rolling. There's some pretty crazy stuff that happens here too. So.
All right. Is that before or after the kids go to bed?
It's a good question.
Okay.
I guess it depends on how much liquor is involved.
All right. There's my first snort of the night. Well,
I apologize.
You did. That's okay. That's always my measuring stick with you. So without further ado, give a introduction, a bio for our guest, and let's bring him on and have fun with him.
Well, okay. So tonight we have an amazing author and documentarian. His name is Lee Pennington, and he has written 20 books and has created over 20 documentaries in his long time of doing this. And what's amazing is I think that he and I actually did cross paths back while I was in college. And he looked very familiar. And I actually got to meet this man the other day, and I was very honored to meet him. I went to his house, and he just really was warm and pleasant and cultured, and it was a great chance to meet somebody who's he's been written over 1,300 poems, published in more than 300 magazines in America and abroad. He has he has had 9 plays produced, and he has published thousands of articles in everything from Playgirl to Mountain Life and Work. And the thing that brought him to me was this documentary that he did called The Bosnian Pyramids Hidden History. And it's an amazing story. It's really strange because a lot of people only think about the pyramids in Egypt, but we've come to know that there are pyramids all over the world. And so this sort of goes into the idea that what we know is limited. Our information has been limited, and there are people that have tried to sort of hoard this information, and this information about our history should be shared with the world. And this is what Lee Pennington has done. He's an amazing man, and we're very, very proud that he's been able to be with us this evening. Lee, welcome to the KT Unearthly show.
Thank you very much, and it's good to be here. And I'd like to jump right in on what Kevin was talking about. Strangely enough, when he mentioned the movie, I knew the movie, and I'll give you a little reason why. My first documentary was called In Search of the Mudmen. And when I did that in it was released in 1991, and I went to Papua New Guinea not knowing much of anything except carrying a camera and shooting from the hip. And it so happened that I didn't even take a tripod. Mm-hmm. And so I was very embarrassed by the documentary later on, and literally took it off the market. And because it was this handheld thing, and about 2 years ago, I pulled that out and showed it publicly, and the audience went crazy about it. And I got to thinking, what in the world's wrong with this audience? This is technically an awful piece. And then I realized that between the time that documentary came out and the Blair Witch time Project I had come out.
Yeah.
Oh, and wow.
And it was a handheld movie. And since that time, Hollywood has attempted in many cases to mimic that technique. In fact, they'll take a 400-pound camera and put 5 or 6 guys on it and try to shake it around so it looks like it's being handheld. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that in.
Good job,
That's
Kevin.
awesome.
Good connection, Kevin.
Yeah, good job.
I didn't know it. I didn't know it. So
ESP.
Well, I've got something. I've got skills. I don't know. ESP is one of, or ESP is one of them. But anyways, but yeah, with those, we're digressing a little bit here before we get into your work, Lee. But with the Blair Witch Project, and the one thing with these movies, I think they have to put that disclaimer. I think they did this with the Blair Witch, where there's a lot of motion, so people were actually complaining or leaving, getting sick from the motion, all the motion of the camera, and but at the same time too, that kind of played into the whole mystique, the whole genius of the movie. People were leaving sick to their stomachs because of the motion sickness or whatever, but it just added another layer to the whole persona of the movie. So I guess there's something to so that's cool. I didn't realize that. Nice.
Luckily my documentary is much shorter, so if people got sick, it was because of the nature of the documentary rather than the technique.
Touche.
Oh gosh. So what we wanted to talk about tonight, there's hundreds of pyramids still standing all over the world, from India to Peru. And these independent cultures have been separated by thousands of miles, separated by the Atlantic Ocean, like who supposedly never discovered each other's existence. They built these large pyramid structures, and they put them in place to align them to the cardinal directions and encoded them with sacred geometry and math. And it's amazing at how perfect that these buildings were created. What do you think, you've done so much research into this, and you've met so many people and followed different archaeologists, and what is the connection? Do you have any idea what the connection is between all of these structures?
Well, I think I do. Yeah, I think first of all, you're very correct in saying that the pyramids is a worldwide phenomenon. It's not just Egypt and Central America. It's every place you look on the planet. What a lot of people don't realize is that North America, for example, had far more pyramids than did Egypt. And one of the largest pyramids in the world is still in existence, and that's Monk's Mound at Cahokia. And there were 120 pyramids at St. Louis at historic contact. But what we're overlooking is we have the concept, traditional archaeology and historians have the concept that history sort of began in somewhere in Mesopotamia 7,000 or 8,000 years ago and went from a low point to the high point that we have now. But I think what has literally occurred is that there have been layers of civilization, several civilizations, and that we've had catastrophic events, planet-wide catastrophic events, which has put us from the highest level back to nearly zero on a number of occasions. And if you go back previous, let's say, to the last major catastrophic event, which would have been about 12,500 years ago, previous to that time, I'm convinced there were worldwide civilizations that had communication and contact with each other. The other thing about pyramids is we've been taught that pyramids were tombs for the pharaohs. But it's kind of odd that there are 100 or so pyramids in Egypt that are known, and there's only been one body found in any of the pyramids. And certainly if there were tombs, there would be multiple pyramids with bodies found in them. People say, well, yeah, but the robbers took them out. But, from what I know about thieves, they're not interested in mummified bodies, are interested in treasures. And so we've been kind of taught wrong to begin with. And what we have to do is kind of back up and say, wait a minute, let's see what's happening. Now we're getting evidence literally all over the world that there were civilizations, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, that we're now dating somewhere around 12,000 years ago.
Yeah, it was like 12,000 to 15,000 years, yeah.
Right, and that was a major civilization. There's no question about it. At the time that was constructed, our traditional thinking suggests that we were merely cavemen or something, but not the case. That was a major city, and something major happened there in that they purposely covered that whole city with sand. We know it was done on purpose, but we have no reason. We don't have any idea why.
Okay, I have a question. When it comes to something being buried, if there's an entryway to a sacred spot and it's inside of a mountain, a lot of people say, oh, well, they'll just fill in the entrance and be done with it. But then when they have people that fill in an entire city or town with sand? Is it to protect what's there, or is it to destroy the existence of it? There's like two different ideas that I always have bouncing around, and I can never tell which is the intent. Is it to destroy, or is it to contain and preserve?
Yeah. Well, when we have multiple examples of things being filled up and covered up, and they fall pretty much in the same time period, my feeling is that these were people that knew some catastrophic event was about to occur and set about to preserve as much of it as they could. And you got with the Bosnian Pyramids, those tunnels at the Pyramid of the Sun that they're working on were purposely filled up. There's no question about it. You can readily see where they were filled up. And I know Dr. Semir Osmanagic, who made the discovery of the pyramid and is doing the major work there, feels that the people were trying to hide something maybe in the pyramid, but I kind of think in terms of maybe they were trying to protect it. And the same way with Göbekli Tepe, I don't think that, if you want to destroy something, you just tear it up. You don't have to cover it up.
Mm-hmm. So in 2005, Dr. Osmanagic actually came back to Bosnia, and people had seen this 700-foot hill, and they just assumed it was a hill for the longest time. Well, he saw it for what it actually was. He saw that it was a very geometric shape. It was a very obvious pyramid to him. And it's actually a lot larger than some of the pyramids in Egypt. Is that correct?
Oh, it's larger than any pyramid in Egypt. It's incredibly larger. The Egyptian pyramid runs about 400 feet high. The Pyramid of the Sun, Pyramid of the Sun is over 700 foot high. And in sheer mass, the Bosnian pyramid is 32 times the mass of the Great Pyramid at Cheops.
So why did he have such a hard time excavating this and getting permission to do so?
Well, I heard this story. It may be anecdotal, but it's probably worth repeating, that they actually brought in, or an Egyptologist from Egypt came to Bosnia and early on corroborated that this was a man-made structure, and then went back to Egypt, and there was a conference held in Egypt by you-know-who and a bunch of others, and said, the name of the conference was, if it's found that there are pyramids in the world older than Egypt, Egypt will lose a major part of its tourism. And suddenly this guy who had corroborated the find in Bosnia suddenly reversed his opinion, and second of all, was presented as someone who didn't know anything about Egyptian pyramids, and he had worked 40 years on the Egyptian pyramids, was considered an authority until his comments in Bosnia, and then he was a worthless authority and wound up actually losing his position in Egypt and was without a job. So I think people try to hold on to their territories, and that's probably a natural human condition.
Yeah, check this out, Tiffany. I've heard this story, with people who live in trailer parks. They all flock to the biggest trailer now, and they brag about having the biggest trailer until someone else truly comes out and says, no, my trailer is bigger. Then what happens? All those people,
you get a triple wide.
And they go to the triple wide and hang out there. So I see what Lee is saying. Now, on a serious side, if the Bosnian pyramids are this much, so much bigger, that's what are we talking seriously with to pacify, modern science and, that whole mindset? What are we talking about as far as manpower and man hours to actually have pulled this off?
Well, what I think we're talking about is that our concepts and hypotheses on how even the Egyptian pyramids were built is probably pretty much in error.
Exactly.
One of the things that they said about building the Egyptian pyramids, that they created a dirt ramp, and engineers have figured out that the ramp it would have taken to scoot those stones along to get it up on there, the building of the ramp would have been as equally difficult to create as the pyramid itself. So that doesn't make any sense. Likewise, they say that 100,000 slaves died in building the Great Pyramid at Cheops. But from what I know of people working, if you have 100,000 people die, there are going to be some awfully mad people, and they're just going to say, we're not going to do this. So we have to look at a technology that we haven't looked at before.
That's a good point. People that when they're quick to point out, okay, we think it was these pyramids or a pyramid was built in this time frame, and in so many years, and if that's the case, then it took this many people to do it, this many hours a day to accomplish that feat. But one thing I've never, and you bring up a good point, one thing I've never heard is the attrition that it has to have had to happen, because I'll be honest, I'm not built to do manual labor. So if I was stuck in that window time frame, I'd have been one of the first people that would have, been sacrificed, because I would have said, I can't do this anymore. You're gonna have to put a arrow through me and in me. But I figure I'm not going to be the only one.
Shoulders.
No, I'm saying shoulders. No. I'm a lover, not a fighter. So I can't do that. That's not me. But so there,
because we're all babies.
Well, yeah, in our time.
I think it's true, Kevin. It's true that it's people in general. You're not going to have 100,000 people die making a pyramid and not be upset about it. I mean, that right. Doesn't make any sense at all. And some of the other structures around the world. I filmed a site at Tiwanaku in Bolivia that has a carved stone, human carved, that weighs 410 tons. And that stone was transported from a quarry 18 miles away.
I laugh at those stories.
We have trouble even thinking about doing that. And when they put in the Aswan Dam and flooded many of the areas in and around the Valley of the Kings, they took some of the statues and tried to save them. But guess what? They could not transport some statues that were in single pieces, 80 or so feet high, and they had to actually cut them in two in order to transport them out to higher ground so that the water wouldn't cover them. We didn't have the ability at that time in the 20th century to be able to move something that the ancients had carved of a single stone and moved themselves. So we're overlooking some kind of technology that was there.
Exactly. Yeah, and we're staying on the pyramid thing. There's a show that I caught the other day on, I don't know, Discovery or one of these channels, where I guess the name of the show was like something about Unearth. And one of the things they talked about is this group of people went to one of these pyramids. They acknowledged the precision looking at the pyramid from the outside, you're standing by it. The precision is incredible, and then their mentality or their premise is that all these people, all these workers, took the time and carved and chiseled and got every stone right to just put them in place and make it look incredibly, everything was just dead on. But they took it a step further. Then they were like, well, once you get past that first layer, then the rocks on the inside of those first layers, like the next layer of rocks, were just kind of just thrown together. They were not. There's not that precision that it looked like it was just, then it looks like it was just it was quickly done just to, get it completed. And my thinking is that who cares about the second layer? I could give a rat's behind on what the second layer looks like. I'm still consumed with the notion that this first layer of rock, on the outside is down
laser precision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So still, you're going to have to convince me. I don't need to know about the inner layer. Convince me that these people really did build hand with their little small hand, whatever their technology was back in the day, that they actually did this. You're not going to sell that to me. You never will. You never will.
But it was done.
Well,
but it was done.
Was it? How?
It obviously was done.
There had to
there.
be. It's there, but
it was
what kind of tools did they really have?
Copper chisels.
Yeah, but what kind of tools did they really have? Fill in the blanks,
I'm going to say that the stones on the pyramids in Egypt were not cut with little copper chisels. Come on, you bang a copper against a stone, and you're going to have bent copper and no cut stone. There's certainly some evidence that some of the two ideas are coming along on the stones on the Egyptian pyramid at Cheops. One of them is that they were cut with saws, and there's been some experiments that suggest that the Egyptians had large saws that could actually cut stone that big. The other theory is, and it's getting some good knowledge now, is that the stones in Egypt were not stones, but were actually a form of concrete that was poured.
But I thought a lot of them were onyx or granite.
Yeah.
Well, none of the stones on the Egyptian pyramid were granite. They were a kind of a limestone. But
Okay.
Dr. Davidovich, with he was the first who came out with that theory. What he did, he took the exact ingredients that were in the stones on the Egyptian surface, and he took those ingredients and put them together, and they formed a stone exactly like what's in Egypt. Now, they ignored him for 15 or 20 years, and can't continue to ignore him because he's done the experiments and has proven that if it was not truly accurate, it was least possible that it was done that way.
And that's what Dr. Osmanagich also claimed on the Bosnian Pyramids.
Oh, from my perspective, there's no question that the work on the Bosnian Pyramid is a polymer, is a form of concrete. And not only is it a form of concrete, it's superior, more than triple superior, anything that we're capable of doing in the 21st century.
Well, I know that I got my concrete patched. I got my concrete patched at my house on my driveway because it was like crackling off, and that was only after a year. So I can only imagine what type they had to create in order to keep something together for maybe 30,000 years is what they're claiming that the Bosnian pyramids are dated to. Can you imagine?
Well, yeah. And there's, there have been 6 institutions in Europe who have corroborated that the stone on the pyramid there is on the Pyramid of the Sun, also on a couple of other structures, that what appears to be a conglomerate is in fact a kind of concrete. Now, up until around 1900, we really didn't have in the Western world concrete very available to us. And what we did at that time was back engineer the Roman concrete that we thought at the time they were the inventors of concrete. We back engineered the Roman concrete, and for all practical purposes, that's what we have today. That's what we're using in the 21st century. But the concrete on those stones on the Bosnian pyramid are capable literally of 3 times the pressure that the best concrete we can produce now is capable of doing, and the water coming into those is incredibly better than what we're able to produce now. That is the lack of water. Our concrete has a porous kind of thing, permits so much water to get in it, 4 or 5% or something, and then the Bosnian concrete, you're talking about less than 1% water can get into, can actually penetrate it. So here we got
incredible.
Yeah. Here we got a civilization, or well, we don't have a civilization. That's part of the problem.
Well, that's a good point.
There's not. Yeah, there's nobody supposed to be around at that time doing that sort of stuff. But the fact is, somebody was around and somebody did. And
all right,
what I was talking about earlier. Yeah,
go ahead.
If you have a catastrophic event like I've described before, and I can certainly pinpoint one on the planet that took place. If you have a catastrophic event that wipes out 99 or more percent of the planet, of the people on the planet, you could have the most major civilization imaginable going down to people barely being able to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that certainly has happened.
Here's a couple questions, here one for starters. Regardless of what kind of tools or whatever was used in building these pyramids, why haven't these tools been discovered?
Well, they may have.
I guess that's a good way to look at it. I guess that's a good way to look at it.
Are they stowed away in the Smithsonian?
No, I'm serious. They may have. They just may not have been recognized. For example, it's becoming fairly clear to, let me say, fringe researchers. Traditional people won't jump on the wagon yet, but it's becoming fairly clear that the pyramids themselves are energy machines, and they are energy machines that are measurable. The Pyramid of the Sun is emitting in a 4-meter circle on top of it, is emitting a kind of a microwave energy that is 28 megahertz. And the interesting thing is, what we know of, or what we think of as energy, the farther it gets away from the source, the less the energy is. In other words, if you're running electricity across the wires, if you're very close to the source, then it's not too hard. But if you're going miles from the source, you have to increase the energy level substantially to get over those miles. And the tests that they've done on the Pyramid of the Sun has shown that as you go away from the pyramid, that is at higher levels, and they tested this at 10-meter levels up about, I think they went up about 50 or 70 meters or something like that, but they found that the energy level increased at each time it was measured in 10-meter intervals. So that means that the energy being produced at that pyramid is increasing
Wow.
as it leaves the source, unless as one of my friends pointed out, what if the energy is coming not from the pyramid, but from above the pyramid? And I have to think that one through, because that is a possibility.
Well,
Define
he
above.
talks about the, that's
Define
a good
above
question
real quick.
too, obviously, above.
Well, when you say above, from the stars. Okay, just making sure it wasn't like the sun. Okay.
But what he stated in the documentary was that we do know, like we'll say that the Earth's heartbeat is 7.83 hertz, and that there's something being trapped within the ionosphere, and the amount of this energy is actually accumulating, and it's getting larger, so like say 14 and 15 hertz, and that's not our natural state.
That's correct.
And it actually goes against our bodies, and it's detrimental to our bodies to be that far above. But there's something inside this pyramid and these structures that is actually getting us back down to our earthly heartbeat, and it actually is healing to people. Is that correct?
That is correct. There's no question about that. Being in the Rodney Tunnel, for example, where that level is exactly the way the natural Earth, without all the Industrial Revolution attack on it, is the level that is natural. And you go in there and you feel I felt it. I could feel a difference. I have a little trouble breathing, and I had no trouble at all breathing in those tunnels.
Wow.
And it's totally amazing. And the technique that they did those tunnels, there are no fans or anything like that used in those tunnels, and yet the airflow in them is absolutely perfect. We don't think in terms of doing that. We go back 20 meters in a cavity, a coal mine or anything. We have to set up massive fans to move the air.
Exactly.
But tell us why that is. It's because the height of the ceiling goes up 5 meters and down 2 meters, and up 5 meters and down 2 meters. So what it's doing is it's naturally pumping that air through.
Absolutely.
Throughout all of the inside of this place, which is amazing to me, because it just sounds so I can't even find another word other than amazing. And Kevin knows that I like to use that word a lot, and I apologize.
Well, amazing is a good word.
Pretty solid.
Spectacular.
It does good stuff for us. Then another thing that happens in those tunnels is that I went in with a camera, and I always try to be more than prepared when I'm going in a secluded place filming. And so I went in the tunnel with 2 fully charged 12-hour batteries, which meant I should be able to film in there telephoto and all sorts of things at least 8 hours on each battery. That would have given me 16 hours. And my batteries were both dead. I filmed off and on for roughly a 2-hour period, and both batteries were totally dead when I came out. There was another filmmaker working at the same time I was, and they took in I think they had an 8-hour battery, and in 20 minutes they were dead. So something happens in there that actually draws the energy out of our batteries.
You know, that happens a lot around spiritual issues as well, spirits and ghosts and ETs, and there's a lot of things that seem to draw from energy sources, and it astounds us daily, especially in this field of the paranormal. And it's amazing to see that energy that you can't see can be used for so many wonderful things around us, and it's very strange that would happen, but maybe not as strange as we would like to believe.
Well, the strange things around us now will very often be extremely common things in the future, and a simple thing like taking a picture. How can you have a little box in your hand and somebody standing 40 feet away and snapping, and suddenly you got them in your little box? That just,
yeah.
If you think about it very long, you'll say that's impossible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it hasn't been that long that it was impossible.
So underneath this massive pyramid, there were found to be tunnel systems and artifacts and dolls and tools, and one of the things that really shocked me was a mold of a human foot. Can you explain what that possibly could have been used for?
Well, I think it was probably used to make shoes.
So this was the original Bosnian cobbler.
Well, that's the only thing I can figure. I mean, there may have been another reason, even a spiritual reason. But when I looked at that, I couldn't come up with any other thing other than this was actually the mold itself had about 7 out of, I think, 11 features that the human foot has. So it was obviously designed for a human foot.
Okay.
But sure. But it's the whole concept. We're saying that 30,000 years ago they didn't even have shoes. Even suspected they didn't even have leather they tied around their feet.
Well, I'm sure they had leather. They had animals.
Well, I'm sure they had. I'm pretty convinced they had advanced stuff in the civilization that was possible to create those pyramids.
Yeah.
And you were talking about the alignment. The alignment to the cardinal points of the Great Pyramid in Egypt is someplace like 12, as I'm remembering correctly, about 12 minutes off perfect. And the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, the alignment's like 0.02 minutes off perfect accuracy. So the alignment of the Bosnian Pyramid is far superior than the Egyptian Pyramid. And we're saying that you have to go along with the carbon dating if you believe in science. I mean, they found organic material between the 5th and 6th layer of the conglomerate, the concrete, and they carbon dated that, and it was getting up in excess of 29,000 years ago.
Here's my favorite question/comment to throw at the expert, in this case, you, Mr. Pennington. When it comes to the whole pyramid thing, pyramids, yes or no? Do you believe or buy into the ancient astronaut theory? Was that type of being part of the show back in the day?
Part of the construction.
Yeah, well, from my perspective, I don't rule that out at all. I don't discount von Daniken's early work and whatnot because something major was going on there, and I'm totally convinced that we're made of the stars, that that the cells in our body are part of the same ingredients that were the stars. The thing that I don't also discount, that at one time human beings on this planet were something's wrong with our picture. I'm been doing some film work down in Indonesia, and there was a group of people down there. They're referring to them as the hobbits because they were such tiny people, but they came in there 99,000 years ago, and there was a massive volcanic explosion that made the one that we know about out of Indonesia, Krakatoa, made that volcano look like a firecracker compared to a hydrogen bomb.
Wow.
And that happened 70,000 years ago. It's considered the largest volcanic eruption that we know about on the planet. And yet those people survived that. And they survived up until a catastrophic event occurred 12,500 years ago. So what I'm saying is that there were people around, and it seems awfully funny to me that we think in terms of civil or humanity, modern human beings starting 40,000 years ago, and yet what happened the hundreds of thousands of years that people were around before that? And
now you're getting into a religious battle.
Well,
now we're going to have a problem.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I grew up from 5 generations of Baptist preachers, so I'm allowed to talk about it.
Well,
but the whole thing.
Do you feel that maybe these people have, and I know that you and I have spoken about this, but do you feel that there has been a flourishing civilization and then catastrophe, and then
totally
small humanity survives, and then big flourishing humanity, and then the same thing happens again, and maybe it was a deluge, or maybe it was a meteorite, or maybe it was a volcanic eruption. But the one thing that I really question with that is, were people warned beforehand? And because when you're going underground, and there's plenty of places like Derinkuyu in Turkey and things like this, where they have a place that has been carved out of the earth and can house 30 to 50,000 people, maybe more. But you have to plan for that. You can't just sit there and say, oh, well, there's going to be a volcano tomorrow. It's looking pretty foggy out. And then build enough area, or save enough seeds, or gather enough, supplies. How does that play into this whole entire story?
Well, we know that in a sense the people did, although the traditional people say no, we didn't have a civilization. But when you're looking at the Bosnian pyramids, or you're looking at a pyramid that I was in Indonesia filming, a place called Gunung Padang, and there's a geologist working on that, like Dr. Osmanagish. This geologist work has been stopped, but he did it far enough and got it long enough that he knows that this structure, Gunung Padang, which everybody thought was maybe 1,000 years old or 1,500 years old, and certainly the surface of it, the human activity on the surface, that would be pretty accurate. But he did a core drill, 50 meters, and found that organic material every 10 meters he went down, and was able at the 50-meter level, where he hit something, some structure very hard, and they did ground penetrating radar, and they know that it's a room of some sort, a large room, and the organic material on top of that put this structure, having been worked by humans at 26,000 years ago. So we know, or at least we're learning, that there were civilizations building massive structures 25, 30,000 years ago. Now, what happened to those, and where's the evidence? Well, in Indonesia, and it was a world event, Indonesia was at one time, 13,000 years ago, was a landmass called Sundaland, and it was twice the size of India, 2 times as large as India is today. Presently, Indonesia is 18,000 islands instead of a single landmass. And what happened when this catastrophic event occurred, it literally raised the water level. We know that in North America the ice melted, and we know that there is a ash level all the way around the world, so that it was a conflagration like nothing we'd ever seen or heard of, and that the water level rose ultimately 500 feet. Now, if you raise the water level 500 feet, it's going to be 100 feet over top of me here in East Louisville, because I'm at about the 400-foot level.
Yeah, let's not go there. That terrifies me.
That's an enormous change. Well, and what you were asking, and I think what the case would be, if you have technology superior enough to build those kinds of structures, you're not sitting down here on the planet not being aware of other things that are going on out into the solar system and universe. So you're going to be aware of ahead of time, especially if something like a comet or a major asteroid would be coming in on the planet. And we know that happened 12,500 years ago. We know it happened because we went into a period of what amounted to a global winter, and it was 1,500 years long. Now, take away our sun for 1,500 years and cover the planet with radiation. The only way you're going to survive is to be underground. And my idea is that if you're aware that this thing's going to happen or might happen and there's nothing you can do about it, you're going to try to survive in whatever way you can. Plato said that, he heard them in Critias and Timaeus, they heard that from the Egyptian priest, some of his information on Atlantis. Plato said that there were 4 major catastrophic events that literally wiped everything out previous to the Greek times. So we're just not looking at the evidence, and that's we have to erase what we've got on our history books and start looking at it freshly. It's going to be amazing information in the next 20 or 30 years. It will be just totally unbelievable.
And fascinating and marvelous.
And now with
shocking and stunning.
Now with the internet, we're not going to be able to keep it quiet.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the same idea with these stories of archaeologists and people finding the bones of the giants, and not only giants in the places where we would suspect, like the Bible talks about, like David and Goliath. So you would say, well, there were probably giants over there. Well, now they're looking in America at giants. And what I wonder is, where are all these bones? Where are all these skeletons being placed and housed and sort of hidden? I want to see these bones, because I do believe that they do exist. But why is it that it's such a hush-hush story?
Well, I can tell you part of it. When John Wesley Powell took over the ethnology department at Smithsonian Institution and made the declaration that nobody was on this, no European or was on this continent before Columbus, and that lasted 100 years or more before anybody even started questioning it. If you'll go back in the library and pull out some books, some geography books or history books that were published previous to 1900, you will see right in the front of those books all these various peoples who came to this continent. The Phoenicians, the Greeks, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Welsh, the Irish. They're all listed in the front of the books. After 1900, you won't find that. And that paradigm was so strongly established. Literally, if you said otherwise, as an archaeologist or historian, and you were in an academic position, you lost your job. And I know people who lost their jobs by taking that stand, and I know people who were ostracized beyond all reason because they took a stand and said, "Wait a minute, here we got evidence." We're still, from time to time, saying Columbus discovered America, and there were obviously several million people here when he got here, and they probably knew about the place.
Actually, Columbus helped to eliminate half of America.
Well,
Exactly.
certainly Europeans coming in.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up.
No, it's a
very big point. It's a very big sore point right now, especially with the pipeline being, trying to get pushed out, and the Native Americans are having a struggle with fighting the pipeline right now. I mean, it really does. It's worth talking about and worth going over that. Genocide is nothing new to humanity. We've tried to do it before many times, and Columbus Day is not one of those days that I like to recognize because my ancestry is Cherokee, and it bothers me that so many people
we celebrate
struggle.
Yeah, we celebrate a murderer.
Well, yeah.
No,
essentially.
we do.
I don't.
Well, Columbus was no more murder than the whole United States and what we did afterwards.
He was a traveler and a wanderer, but it in the end it was not something that is very. It's not something to glorify when it comes down to that. Oh, Siri is responding to this. Let's see what Siri has to say, considering Siri is I don't know if you all have this problem, but Siri likes to interrupt my conversations a lot. Have you had this problem with your phone? I don't know. She said, I would ask that you address your spiritual questions to someone more qualified to comment, ideally a human. Well, thank you, Siri, for that comment. What? I don't think it really had to do with Columbus. I don't know. Anyway, Siri, stop eavesdropping.
Yeah, well, that was, that was the greatest genocide probably on the planet, and it was done on purpose and with full sanction, and we need to address that. We need to address that part of our history before we can, take whatever steps we're going to take. And I'm all for looking that straight in the face and saying we must address it. As human beings, we must address it. But the whole thing, not only on the paradigm of no contact on this continent, but that's the craziest thing that there ever was. The ancient Greek, we go around saying that the oceans were barriers. The oceans were superhighways. They weren't barriers. the ancient Greeks referred to the ocean as the door, the ocean door, or the gateway. If it were a barrier, they'd have called it a wall.
Right.
And as I tell everybody, I love this because of Tori Murden. I tell everybody, if we have a little girl from Louisville, if she can row a boat across the Atlantic, certainly folks with bigger boats, a lot more people could have done it many, many times and probably did. And the other thing that we have to consider right now on sea travel is that we know that human beings were in Australia 60,000 years ago, and they didn't walk. They had to cross quite a bit of ocean to get there. And so people traveled with sea, and if you're using boats 60,000 years ago, you certainly could make some improvement over the 50,000 years. But the time scale, it's the same thing. We're not permitted to think in terms of human beings being in the Americas at any time link. But I think that's an error too.
Good point.
We stuck with the Clovis for so long until Tom Dillahay, who at the time was at the University of Kentucky, went down to Chile in the Monteverde and found a site down there that predated Clovis by 1,500 years. And it took him 15 years to even get people to come in and look at it. And I heard him say privately that he found a site that went back more than 30,000 years. And he said, but somebody else is going to have to make that fight. And I can understand that. But the great anthropologist who worked in Africa, Leakey, his last work was done in the United States. It was done at a site at Calico, in Calico, California. And Leakey said that site showed human habitation 160,000 years ago. And his work in Africa was kind of accepted, but his work in the U.S. was just totally pitched out the window. But there are many, many pieces of evidence that suggest that humans were on this continent long before we suggest, and the Native American people, in their own way, may be right when they say we've always been here.
There you go.
Certainly, they've been here thousands of years.
Yeah. They just don't leave as big a footprint.
Good point. They're great at hide and seek, aren't they?
Well,
the ultimate hide and seek people. Bunch of bullshit.
That's
right.
A bunch of BS. Sorry.
Yeah. As we're kind of winding down with our show, for selfish reasons, Lee, we were pushing the whole Bosnian pyramids, the pyramids in general, but you're involved in so much more than that. And one of the things that I did read up on, and I think is totally awesome, is that in 2013, University of Louisville opened up the Lee and Joy Pennington Cultural Heritage Gallery, which seemed like a very, very cool thing. Share with us what's that all about.
Well, that's totally an amazing event, and notice I'm using a word that we said couldn't use too often, amazing, but it is just that. It all started out when my good buddy that I had in class early on back in the 70s, Dick Wilson. Dick was around here, and I was showing him some Egyptian artifacts that I have that are go back 3,000 or 4,000 years, and I have some little scarabs, 2 little scarabs, and they, they're authentic artifacts that are 4,000 years old. And then right beside of them, I had a couple of scarabs that I'd bought on the streets of Cairo, was made for the tourist. And I told Dick that I said, these scarabs here, tourist scarabs, cost me $1.25 a piece. And I said, I have no idea what these other two are worth. And Dick said to me, he said, this is crazy. He said, you're going to die, and people are going to come in your house and not know the difference between $1.25 scarabs and 4,000-year-old scarabs. And he said, we need to have you thinking in terms of getting your material someplace. He said, let me introduce you to somebody. And he did. Delinda Bowie, who's head of special collections at the University of Louisville. Now, I had, over the years, I went to school to Jesse Stewart. He was my principal back in 1957. And I got to know Jesse and was colleagues with him and traveled around the world with him in various places. And I collected Jesse's works and had what I'm probably sure of was the best private collection of Jesse's things in existence. And I thought, well, maybe I can get some university to take Jesse's things and I can ride in on it piggyback and get some of my stuff protected that way. And anyway, when Dick told Delinda about me, she quoted Dick some of my writing. And it just so happened that Delinda went to Alice Lloyd College, and her teacher at Alice Lloyd had used my first book as a textbook. And so Delinda was kind of interested in getting my stuff. And it things just kept happening and rolling, and now suddenly there's a Lee and Joy Pennington Cultural Heritage Gallery. They're going to be housing all of my writing, all my films, all the raw stuff, and in addition, they're going to be keeping the artifacts that I've collected, over the years traveling around the world. And as I told them at the opening in 2013, I was looking for a file cabinet to put my stuff in, and here's what happened. But it's just a stunning thing. I can't believe that I'm actually that my material is actually going to be side by side with the rarest things the University of Louisville has, and that's first editions of Copernicus, and I did see one of the first editions of Newton where he had gone through the book and actually made notations in the margins.
Oh my goodness.
And
well, let me tell everybody that I did go to your house, and I would have loved to have sat around and just picked up and touched every single little knickknack and item. And I mean, I was amazed to see that there were these two. One of them was a cat, and the other were two sets of turtles, and they were made on a nut from Costa Rica. And my daughter loves animals, so obviously I wanted to see those and show her. But I could have sat there for hours and just asked, the stories behind every single item that you had in your living room. And it felt so homey and so warm, but yet so foreign, because you have all of these amazing trinkets and icons and statues. And I would love to see all of that in a display in a university setting. And I think that every one of those pieces would be perfect in that type of thing. You have really traveled extensively and really, really delved into such amazing, rich cultures that we could only, as local hillbillies, really be able to even imagine.
Local yokels. Local yokels. Don't use the hillbilly. Yeah.
Well, I need to tell you up front that I'm a country boy from Greenup County, and I've continued to respect and that culture that I came up from.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. I love the people, and I've got a film coming up on Wednesday of one of those people, Vern Spratt, an old country guy. He's no longer with us, but boy, he just had no formal education to mount to anything. But he had a wisdom in him, and I found that all over the world. Right. I find that the people that you would least expect to know anything really has the wisdom and the knowledge, and if you can tap in on that and share that, it just makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, I agree.
Good point.
And
Good point.
we were absolutely honored to have you on tonight.
Well, before we let him go,
all my pleasure.
Yeah, check this out. Before we let him go, he's going to have to do a round of shots with us, Tiffany.
I think that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah. Well, and
you have to explain it to us.
Yeah.
Did you hear me?
You want to do a round of what now?
Round of shots. Round of shots. It's a kind of a take on our name, shooting from the lip. Our round of shots is 6 questions. It's like a 6 quick Q&A type thing, just to get to know a little bit more of the person rather than his work. So just play along. What was the first concert that you attended? Music concert?
Well, the first performance concert you're talking about.
Yeah.
Or you say attended or performed?
Well, actually, that's a good. You're one of the lucky ones. Attended and performed. Do both for me.
Well, the first one I ever performed was at Berea College, and I had cousins who were great musicians growing up, and I never did think I could learn to play, but I finally started working on a guitar, and I learned 2 chords and decided to give a concert. I couldn't tune the guitar, but I had a lot of guts, and so I had somebody tune the guitar, and I went out on stage and gave a performance, and the guitar kind of stayed in tune. And I will say this, my college roommate, I hope he's listening tonight, Steve Alexander.
That would be awesome.
Who's in Brazil. But,
wow.
But Steve said to me after that, he said, "That's the damnedest playing I ever heard in my life."
well, here, you know what? I'm gonna raise the bar here, Lee. I'm gonna do you justice, because give us about a time. How old were you when this happened? About how old?
Oh, I would have been probably 19 years old.
Yeah, exactly. So you're a teenager, late teens, playing an instrument in front of an audience, no matter how size of an audience. The bottom line, Lee, did it help pick up chicks at the end of the night? That's the bottom line when it comes to picking up a instrument. Be honest.
Well, I'll be honest. I'm a little bit like the late Gamble Rogers, who said, when he wanted to learn to play the guitar, he said it wasn't learning to do the music, but it was.
Exactly.
He saw his father play, and he knew how those women looked at him when he played that guitar.
We're on to something. Great minds.
So I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest. That music always helps.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. See, this is Tiffany, these are the moments of our show that no other show to me can duplicate, because we've been serious for what? For an hour and 20 some minutes. And then we start talking about how Lee plays the guitar to pick up chicks. How much of a curveball is that?
We didn't know that. That's awesome.
We didn't know it, but now we know. Lee,
and you're telling me that's
high five, Lee. High five.
Oh no, that is. At 19, that is very serious.
Oh yeah, hell yeah! I would expect nothing less, Lee. If you would have came back and go, "No, Kevin, I was really trying to, impress my parents," we would have talked offline. So, all right, next question. if is it, are you one who would ask for permission or beg for forgiveness?
I would always
See, I
beg
think at night,
for forgiveness.
there you go.
Yeah, that's
I like that.
I've always been, I tell people that I don't mind going out on a limb. In fact, I sit on a limb with a saw in each hand and saw each sides of me.
Oh, very good.
And
Nice.
I've done that with all sorts of things in life, and it's done well for me. That kind of attitude.
Very cool. Very cool. I can appreciate that. Good answer. Number 3, if you could choose one superpower, what would it be?
Sense of touch.
Huh. Boy, he's taking the sensual route here.
He's a hugger and a kisser.
I know.
He's a
I
hugger
like
and
that.
a kisser, believe me. He
Rare.
likes to give
I at one time asked myself the question over and over, if I had to lose one of the senses and I had a choice between sight and touch, which one would I select? And I would choose to keep the sense of touch.
There you go.
I can tell you a little.
Tell us why.
I can tell you a little anecdote, a little story about
Please.
that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you absolutely.
When I was growing up, I didn't have any idea that how this happened. To this day, I don't know how it happened. But growing up, part of my maturation was identifying trees and plants and this sort of thing. And I don't ever remember anybody giving me a lesson in that. It just was part of who I was. And I was sitting around one day and pretty late in the evening, it was already dark, and I got to thinking, I can identify trees with my eyes, but can I do it with my hands? And as soon as I came up with that question, I had to go find out. And so I got me a flashlight, and Mom said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Up the road." I was wise enough not to say I'm going to go see if I can identify trees by touching them. She had given me castor oil, but anyway, I headed off up the road and I took a flashlight, and I found that I was getting about 50% of them. I could identify by sense of touch about half of them. I told a friend of mine about it at the school where I was, and he thought that was absolutely astounding. And I said, "Well, I didn't think so, because at that little school, if you made below 60, you failed." And so I was getting 50, and so I was failing tree feeling. But what I did, I kept at it and kept at it and kept at it, and finally reached the stage where, as I told everybody, I made an A in tree feeling. It taught me that it's possible to train the senses to be much better than you expect, and I think you can do any sense that way. That just happened to be one that I did. But the sense of touch has always been incredibly important to me, and probably always will be until I was going to say till they throw dirt on me, but then I'm going to be burned up. So maybe I'll get to feel that.
Let's get that
once,
straight.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat you say the sense of touch, because I've got to digress a little bit and give a kind of a shout out to my dad, who is a diabetic, to the point where he lost his vision several years ago. He's got grandkids, he's got great grandkids, he's got the 2 great grandsons he's obviously never seen, great grandkids he's not seen in years, but he, in conversations with him and my mother, he does have that sense of touch. And so it's kind of neat you said that, because we kind of had this kind of conversation the other day, because I don't know, it was something in that kind of, and just hear me out, bear with me, but I was over there and with his great grandkids, my grandsons. And, I kind of just pulled my brother and mom aside and said, man, it breaks my heart that Dad can only feel and not see his great grandsons. And, my mom made some comment that, he's got this vision of them inside because of how he's holding them and stuff. And, at that time, I'm like, okay, whatever. But, I guess he does. And get a little emotional over this. But it's, this life throws you the curveballs, and we all have to make, the best of what we got. And
you know what? He probably enjoys those kids no matter what. It's not, he probably doesn't even think about, I can't see them. He's getting to hug them and hold them and kiss them.
Well, it's a question I asked in a poem one time. I got to thinking about it. And my dreams are visual. They're also, the other senses play roles in them, but primarily they're visual things. And I asked a question one time: what does a blind man dream? And but a blind person has an internal vision, just as we have an internal vision with our memory, with our dreams, et cetera. But it may be designed differently, but it's the same concept.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. All right. Let's head on.
Let's see.
Do you need me to
name a? Yeah. Sorry. Name a Lee Pennington guilty pleasure.
Oh, let's see. Guilty pleasure. I have a lot of those. It's hard to pick a real.
Well,
one.
due to our budget and time
anything,
constraints, we can only get one.
Only one guilty pleasure.
You can share with me the others when we meet in person.
Okay, seeing anything or sensing anything that is beautiful. I don't cry when things are sad with me. I can hold up pretty well on that. But when I see any creativity that is just astounding to me in such a beautiful way, I get so much pleasure that I actually weep. And so I cry a lot in movies. I cry watching television. If I see a singer that touches something that's never been touched, I wept when I saw Baryshnikov dance here in Louisville. Everybody is looking at something else, but it was just such a beautiful thing that I wept. So that's my guilty pleasure of seeing beauty to the extent that it makes me weep.
And that's good raw emotion. So it's acceptable.
Oh boy, I have plenty of that.
Yeah, good. Hey, and you know what? You're a little older than me. I'm going to be 50 next year in 2017. My thinking is that I get it. I'm rounding. I'm past my halfway point. So from this point on, or actually been a few years ago, but right now the way I live life is that my last breath could happen sooner than later, and I just got to make the most of it. And the most of it is to purge emotions, to share my feelings, to let the people closest know what they mean. And I don't know, we're digressing totally here, but I feel you, Lee. I know where you're coming from.
I understand that, Kevin. I understand that fully, and I had as a very young man an obsession that I was going to die by the time I was 25, and wow. I lived my life. Accordingly. I found out that I wasn't the only writer that had that. Nathaniel Hawthorne had the same thing. But anyway, I lived my life as though every moment was all I had. And then after I passed my 25th birthday and was still around, I felt every single moment that I had after that was a great gift. And so I have lived literally my life that way, that every moment is the greatest gift on the planet. And it's treated me well by taking that attitude.
You know what surprised me about our conversation was that I asked you, when you go to these places like I can't remember which place that you had mentioned that was a little freaky to me, but it was like maybe Nicaragua, or where was it? You'd
Maybe
mentioned
Papua
going.
New Guinea.
It might have been, but there was someplace that you had mentioned that just sort of struck a chord in me, and I was like, "Are you scared of going to these places?" And you said, "Not at all." You said you don't. You know, you've been in a strange and terrifying situations, but you've never been fearful of going to these places as an American, as a blonde-eyed or blue-eyed, light-skinned American. You've never been fearful, and I found that very astounding because, you know, I went abroad and I lived in Greece and I traveled, but you know, I was a very, very blonde, blue-eyed person. I was very much out of place. And it's amazing that you wouldn't feel uncomfortable or unsafe.
I think I said it one time in a poem. You can be scared to death, but once you've been scared to death, that's as far as you can go. You can't be scared to death again.
Oh, wow. Throw logic into that. Use logic there.
I said in a poem.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said in a poem one time, you can scare me dead, but you can't scare me dead. You can't do it.
I love it.
And
I like that too.
But I feel like, you know, and for years I felt like that anything could happen anytime. As I tell people, if you want to be afraid of something, there was a woman in Montana in her bed on the first floor, and a meteorite came through the roof, down through the floors, and hit her in the belly. Now people could stand around and be scared to death of getting hit by a meteor.
Yes,
is this
the only
legit?
Person that's been struck by. She's the only person that's been struck by a meteorite lived.
You know,
Lee, you've been honest with me. I've been thinking you've been honest with me for an hour and 39 minutes. You're going to pull the meteor striking the belly of the lady card on me now?
No, I'm saying that anything can happen to you at any time.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
The weirdest of things.
Right.
No,
you know,
that's true.
I've been struck by lightning, okay, and I'm still here, and you know, and I've been in automobile accidents I shouldn't have been. I've missed airplanes, missed flights on airplanes that went down and everybody was killed, and you know, you can stand around.
And wait a minute, you can't. Lee, you can't bring these types of topics up at 11:40 at the end of our show.
This man has been through it.
You've had all these.
Man's been through it.
You've had all these, and he's lived through it. You've had all these coincidences. All right, Tiffany, book Lee. We need part 2. We need another show with him. He just.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's obviously
survival of the fittest.
Yeah, Lee part 2. How he's cheated death. Nice.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Take that,
well,
Fox.
Everybody cheats death. Yeah, I'll go along with that.
Survive, don't you?
But everybody cheats death. You know, death only wins one time.
Not me.
You know, I guess that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, I've cheated death once at least.
Yeah, and I feel pretty happy that I beat the sucker, you know, several hundred times. And
beat the sucker.
And he's only going to get one.
He's only going to get one, and you, at the end of the day, you can look back at him and go, you know, you're so long. I dodged you for about 500 times, and you finally got me. Okay, that's impressive. All right, Lee.
Yeah,
this
cool.
is question. Yeah, it's been cool. Question number 5 of our 6 round of shot questions. So, question number 5 is: do you use your phone quite a bit? Is that part of your connecting to the, you know, like your smartphone? You do have a smartphone? Yeah.
I have a smartphone, but it's not as smart as other people's phones.
All right. Well, let's see how. Well, that's okay. Let's see how smart it is. What's your favorite phone app on your phone?
My favorite phone app would probably be just the phone.
Give me
a lot of
something to
people
work
say
with,
the
Lee.
weather app.
Like Facebook app, Christian
I
Mingle,
use-
or did you already find your?
When I'm on the road or when I'm out of the country, my phone is totally my Facebook connection, and that's
Right.
And
your lifeline?
that is amazing to be in the jungle someplace and actually, be able to take a picture and send it back to friends in the United States and say, here's what we're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
It is amazing. It's amazing.
Amazing.
And I found out,
whatever those other.
See, I'm not as smart as my phone is. For example, when I went to Indonesia, we went to Indonesia and Cambodia and Vietnam, and when I went there, I set up with my phone service. I gave them, I think it was $200, so that I would have access to the internet and all that. And and what I didn't realize was that I should be hooking up with Wi-Fi when I was in those countries. So
exactly.
My $200 was
It got ate up right away.
The first 10 pictures.
Yeah, you got to do Wi-Fi.
You're already $100 over on.
Well, you remember, Lee, you remember back in the day when you had to get a sat phone. You remember? There were phones that would connect with satellite in order for you to go wherever and use them. And I remember going to Greece, and that was the first time that you didn't have to use a sat phone to get service overseas.
Yeah.
And that was in 2001. And I really do remember thinking, wow, this is amazing. I could sit here and call my family or text my family without having to buy a sat phone. It was amazing. It was amazing. God, why can I not get that word?
I did a lot of travel between the early 70s. International travel between the early 70s and up till the time the phone was invented. We didn't have phones. You could sometimes find a phone in a hotel, a landline, and call somebody, but ordinarily you didn't have any communication while you were gone. You just did without
vanished.
it.
Yeah. Well, we have one last question, and the question is, if you had a time machine and could go anywhere in the past or in the future, where would you choose to go and why?
I would choose to go back 13,000 years ago, before the catastrophic event that took place, and try to see what that technology was like before the disaster occurred, without hesitation.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel that you would find some answers to who built the pyramids at that time?
Oh, I'm sure I would.
Yeah. I'd like to go there with you.
All right. Well, let's book our flight.
Let's book our flight. Let's find that time machine. I found one in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, in a hotel there. And I will show it to you on Facebook because it is amazing.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, we're so happy that you were able to come on tonight with us and share your story, and I know that you have so many stories, and we will have to have you on again. And you were just such a wealth of knowledge, and I do appreciate all the time and hard work that you've put into sharing this information with the world. And a shout out to UK and all of our other colleagues and hunters out there for the truth and the mysteries, and thank you so much for you just being awesome and sharing everything with us tonight. We do appreciate it.
It's been a great pleasure for me to be with you tonight, and I enjoyed the camaraderie with both of you, the whole thing, the whole perspective from my point of view kind of goes back to something that was said by a lady talking to a group, and she screamed out, this is back in the 20s, and she screamed out, what is the answer? And nobody in the audience said anything. And she said, well, what is the question? And that's the focus we need ultimately to get to. What is the question?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for having
Good
me
point.
tonight. It's been a sheer pleasure.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Lee, you're the man. I'll be burning up your messenger inbox for good conversations, because I think I ultimately have to connect with you. I got to meet you in person. And
You
so I look
do.
forward
Sounds
to that.
good.
All right.
Let's do
Thanks
coffee
so much.
or round of shots with moonshine one day.
Something.
Preferably at 11 a.m.
I'll go the Kentucky bourbon, but
Uh-oh.
I can stick my finger in that rot gut, but I don't drink it.
Lee came on and killed it tonight. Lee, have a great night. We'll be in touch. Best of luck with all the work you're doing too.
Thanks so much for both of you. Talk to you
All
again
right,
soon.
take care.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Wow, Tiffany, what a great show tonight. Blown away.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely great
so-
show. Yeah.
Yeah, credit to you. You found Lee, and Lee came on, and actually Lee came on a week earlier than planned because of
And you know what? I've been trying to get him on for 7 months, 6 months, probably
Well,
7 months, and that was like before I was
it-
with you. So yeah.
it took your looks and charm 7 months to get Lee on.
Did
you find that-
no,
find
not
that offensive enough?
necessarily.
Anyway.